Hey guys, welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to be showing you the differences between flux-core welding wire and just regular solid steel welding wire. Beside me here I've got my two welders, which are almost identical, except the one down here is the MIG-PAC 180, which is a 240 volt welder, or a 220 volt. And then I got the MIG-PAC 140 here beside me, which is a 120 volt welder. So the only difference is the voltages, which will make a difference as far as heat and penetration goes. But overall, very similar welders. In the MIG-PAC 140, I got the flux-core set up, and in the 180, I got the solid steel wire with the argon shielding gas. Now, the shielding gas that I'm using for this test is 1585, so 15% CO2, 85% argon. And that's kind of more of a generic gas combination as far as MIG welding goes. So before we get started, it's always good to practice wearing the right safety equipment when welding. As you can see, I put a long sleeve shirt on. This shirt in particular is not good for welding because it's very thin and easy to burn through. So I'd recommend wearing either a welding jacket or at least a heavy sweater. But for this, on me at least, it's going to prevent me from getting a sunburn of any kind. Also, it's good to have a good welding helmet. You can get really cheap ones, but I don't really trust them, especially when it comes to your eyes. I mean, you only have one set of eyes, and if you wreck them, then you're kind of screwed after that. I also got a good set of leather welding gloves here to protect my hands from any of the heat and sparks. Okay, so now that I've got all my safety equipment on and my welder set up, I'm going to do the first pass with the solid welding wire and the external shielding gas. And for this, I'm just doing a straight single pass on the highest heat setting. Okay, as you can see with this weld, it was nice and clean. Being as I'm indoor, I don't need any extra shielding gas or anything, which is where the flux-core wire would come in handy. Flux-core is very good for welding outdoors in windier conditions, whereas the external shielding gas is good for indoor conditions where there's not as much wind. Because if you have a lot of wind with the shielding gas, it's just going to get blown away and you're going to get poor welds and a lot of porosity. This is what the first weld looks like here with the solid welding wire and the external shielding gas. Alright, for the second test here, I got my other welder set up with the flux-core wire. Again, with this welder, I got it on the highest heat setting, and I'm just going to do a standard single pass weld and see how that turns out. Here's the flux-core wire, single pass. As you can see, there's quite a bit more spatter and slag from the weld because of the flux-core wire compared to the other weld back here with the shielding gas. With flux-core wire, you are going to get more penetration and more heat. Even though I have a less powerful welder, I still got very decent weld on that. And if I just grab a wire brush here, if you just brush up the welds. Kind of chip off some of the slag there. As you can see, it's still a very nice weld. Just have a little bit more cleaning to do with the Flux-cored wire. Okay, so now for the second test, I have a fan set up here beside me to act as if I'm welding outside, to give me a breeze going past the weld here, and then we're going to check out the differences between the solid steel wire with the shielding gas and the Flux-cored wire. First going to start off with the solid wire and the external shielding gas. So as you can see, with the external shielding gas and the wind on this weld, I started to get porosity, especially at the start there. And you can see how it's bubbled out. There's not a lot of porosity, but there is underneath the weld. There's going to be a bunch of bubbles underneath. It's kind of hard to see here because it's covered. But there is, I did get quite a bit of porosity there just from having that bit of wind blowing across the weld, which is, it's blowing the shielding gas away and then creating a crappy weld. Okay, so now we're going to try the same test again. I got the fan going beside me here, except this time I'm using the Flux-cored wire. As you can see here, the Flux-cored wire did a lot better job of welding in the wind. I had already brushed it off just quickly there, so this is what it looks like all cleaned up. This is the Flux-cored wire here on the weld. So it did a lot better job with the breeze. So the main differences between Flux-cored wire and solid welding wire with external shielding gas is the solid wire with the shielding gas is a much cleaner weld, a lot more suitable for indoor welding without any wind or breeze, whereas the Flux-cored wire is much better for outdoor conditions where there is wind and breeze because the shielding gas is internally inside the wire. And benefits of that as well is you don't have to carry a tank around, whereas the external shielding gas you need a tank obviously to carry the gas with it. With the Flux-cored wire, you do tend to get more penetration and heat, whereas the solid welding wire is less penetration. But with the Flux-cored wire, it is a dirtier weld with more spatter and more slag. But when you brush it off and clean it up, you still get a great looking weld. Hope you found this video helpful, and stay tuned for more welding tips and videos.